Welcome to the Munchkin Minute, your bi-weekly look into some tabletop gaming news and more. I'm your host, Dan, and Board Game Man, and this is your news for February 24th, 2025. So, boy, this is a packed show, and I hope not to go too long and not too fast to get it all in, but here we go. First up, a couple of interesting announcements from UVS Games and their continuing growing partnerships. So, UVS has first up partnered with Fireside Games and Calliope Games to bring out an old and a borrowed game. So UVS partnering with Calliope Games means the return of Roll For It into retail. This is an oldie and one of the best casual dice chucking games, which was one of my kids' favorite games for a long time. So you have some cards with spaces for specific dice rolls, and on your turn you roll your dice. I think you had 6 dice at the time, 6 or 8, and then you assign them to the cards. If you finish a card, you get that card and your dice back into your pool, and you get the points. If you don't finish the card, you leave your dice on the cards, but they're locked there until another player either completes that card, or if it comes back to you and then you roll the remaining dice and are able to finish that card, then you get your card, that card, and your dice and those points in the card. So you play to a specific point value, and basically that's the game. From what it sounds, UVS is going to be publishing a new Roll For It titles, and they're probably going to be mashing up some of their bevy of tons of IPs they have. So they've got IPs from anime to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Star Trek, and who knows. Anyway, it's going to be a great, fun game with just kind of a mashup. It's just going to be a fun, probably maybe even just kind of a, just a pasted on theme on a game. Either way, the game is just fun. So it's something to look out for. There is an iOS version of Roll For It that should still be out there. And it was pretty cheap. If you want to play the original game on iOS, it is an absolute blast and you can play it solo. So as for the other one I teased, UVS has partnered with Fireside Games to merge Castle Panic and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles together, which will be out sometime later this year in 2025. So I suspect we'll either have a release or some demos at Gen Con this year for this particular one. Now, Castle Panic, just like Roll For It, is an absolute fun game, an older game, and absolutely fun. And they put out like a more kind of an updated version a couple of years ago that I covered here on Munchkin Land. But it is just a really fun game, very light, amazingly great for casual players and experienced players alike. But merging that with TMNT is going to be pretty cool to see how that theme, and I'm sure you're going to have all the different, all different bad guys from TMNT coming at you into a circle or into your, kind of your house, or I guess maybe the sewer, and you're going to be playing the cards to get them away. Anyway, should be a lot of fun, and I'm sure once we do get a release date and some more information, I'll mention it later in the year here on Munchkin Land. Next up, another pair of announcements, and these are from Arcane Wonders. Now, first, Arcane Wonders is going to be bringing over Rolling Wizard Studios game called Onstage. This will be out here in the US in August this year, so probably right around time for Gen Con. This one should be about $30, and this is a pretty cool trick-taking game. This says that you're playing as a theater company competing for the best performers to join your troupe. Now, when you win tricks, you claim performers on stage. Now, the suit of Trump is determined by the most valuable performer currently on stage, and that's going to change throughout the game as you recruit and manipulate the line of performers. I love just cool trick-taking games. These are generally fast-taking playing games, usually in 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how many players. And this is for 3 to 5 players. So this one looks pretty cool. Trick-taking is not hard at all. And is always coming up with fun and interesting themes and ways to manipulate trick-taking is always cool. So I'm looking out for this one. Again, this one should be out probably by about in time for Gen Con. The other release from Arcane Wonders is going to be an expansion to a game I seem to mention just about every month these days. So they're going to be releasing Freedom 5, Rubble, and Ruin. This should be out later next month in March for about $35. Now, this is an expansion to Freedom 5, a Sentinel Comics board game. And it has 6 new scenarios and a new hero in Unity. I suspect we'll see a ton of expansions over the next few years, as there's definitely no shortage of heroes of Sentinels in the multiverse, the IP. And actually, it's a fun game, probably pretty easy to expand on, to come up with more scenarios and to use these different heroes in the game. So this would be a cool one to be checking out. And again, I really do love the base game, so this should be a cool little expansion to add to it. And of course, you will need that base game to play this one. Thunderworks Games is going to be releasing a game called Emerald Skulls. This will be out in May. Should be about $25. This is a push your luck little dice chucker, with betting in it. So what they say is in this game, you're going to be filling this little skull board with dice, and they have kind of little ways that you're going to be filling a dice, and you're going to be using it in speedy real-time wagers as the players are kind of chucking these dice, and depending on your opponent's rolls, you're going to be betting on those rolls. So on your turn as the roller, you're going to be using tricks to place them in the 5 ascending tiers on the skull, but once you place your dice, you can't place anything under that tier. So just a nice little fun, very light, kind of fun little party game for 1 to 6 players, and should be about 30 to 60 minutes on this one. But I like the different things that are coming out and the kind of cheeky artwork that they've been putting out with Thunderworks Games. So this should be another fun little game. Now, sticking with the whole pair theme, I started a little pair theme today. Did you notice that? Anyway, there's a pair of duo or dual games announced this week as well. As I keep kind of mentioning on Munchkin Land, the hot things that we keep seeing a lot lately are, of course, there's been the roll and write games, the quote unquote the dice game or the card game, and now lately it's everything is in dual or duo is the huge hotness that we have. So then this up is Devir Games is going to be releasing the White Castle Duel. This will be out later this year. Not really a whole lot is known yet, but if you know the wildly popular the White Castle, a lot of fun in a little game, a little box, like Devir does that a lot with a lot of game in a small box. But if you're like me and you think it's really good game, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of the same kind of dice as workers mentality to this one. The White Castle's really fun because there's, and even put an expansion out because people kept saying, I really want to do just a little bit more in this game. And that's kind of the ode to a good game. But with this one, it just seemed just a little bit too quick for it, and then they released an expansion. So hopefully this kind of the White Castle Duel will bring out that kind of fun with the whole, the dice as workers in a 2-player game. And Asmodee is going to be releasing Everdell Duo, which was successfully kickstarted last year, and it'll be in retail kind of next month in March for about $35. And this one is either co-op or competitive, which is kind of why they probably use duo and not dual in it. And if you know the great Everdell, which is also wildly popular for a good reason, it's a ton of fun. The gameplay will probably be card play. Well, it will be card play, just like regular Everdell, with cards into a tableau and such. And the artwork is amazing, just like regular Everdell, with Engar Adarasa and Andrew Bosley. Andrew Bosley, much easier to say than Engar Adarasa, but great artwork in this game as well. So just 2 more to go for today. First up, another one with not a whole lot of info, but it really grabbed my attention when I got a heads up about it. So I got an email about the Upper Deck is releasing Legendary Game of Thrones. So Marvel Legendary had been around forever, and there's other Legendary games. This one should be out right around July of this year, probably in time for Gen Con as well. This seems to be a Legendary, the board game, the base regular board Legendary, the deck building game setup, not Legendary Encounters, which is more of a scenario and story-based game, story-based different take on Legendary. I myself like Legendary better because Legendary Encounters has quite the mixed bag of quality. Now, Legendary Encounters Aliens was amazing, but Firefly might have been one of the worst takes on the theme I've ever seen. It was awful. So hopefully this one of the regular Legendary, we'll see some characters as heroes and big bads, with all those nice Game of Thrones characters that we love. I'm still 1,000% in love with this system. It's not old hat or anything like that. I just really love the system. I love deck building. So this is, and if you like me, and it's still, there's still an app for Legendary. It should still be out there. It's not themed because of licensing issue, but it still has that fun Legendary gameplay loop. I still have it on my phone, which leads me to think that I think it's still out there in a store if you want to check it out. And again, I think it was free with in-app purchases. Anyway, hopefully the Game of Thrones edition is affordable. Hopefully it's really good. I'd really like to see their take as an expansion with House of Dragons expansion out there down the road. And finally, Steamforged has announced a pre-order for a trio of games in the Elden Ring tabletop universe, which was kickstarted a couple years ago. And I think it was $4.1 million that it ended up raising. So there's 3 titles: the Elden Ring Realm of the Crested King for $199, Elden Ring Weeping Peninsula for $119, and Elden Ring Stormveil Castle $129. So like many of the other Steamforged games, they're gigantic with a ton of minis, ton of cards. And who the heck knows with gameplay, with all the different ones that they've put out things like Resident Evil, Dark Souls, Horizon Zero Dawn. They've got all these different titles, and they're either hit or miss. They're either huge hits or a huge miss. So we've talked about them some on a Discord, but I really would love to hear if anyone backed these particular ones or which ones of the past that you like or dislike, and if you're going to get in on this Elden Ring themed big games. Again, it's huge. There's a million different minis. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of, it looks like it's decent gameplay. But again, those prices are a bit high. So anyway, let's get into some crowdfunding. We've got a few Kickstarters and a game found for you today. So first up, this is a trio of games this one is from Connor McGoey and Inside Up Games with Connor McGoey. It is well funded. Got about 2 weeks to go. And it's 3 games. So you've got a trick taking game, a lane battling game, and a hidden movement game. Now, me, I love trick taking, as I keep mentioning it. This first one in this one. So this is basically Crits and Tricks, Tug of War, and Thieves of Eldris, all in this one campaign. You can get these 3 games all together. But anyway, you've got a really cool game where you've got a trick taker, which the suit changes the win condition of the trick. So there's different things to do. There's even some dice involved in this, which I think is very, very cool. There's Thieves of Eldris, which is pickpocketing targets, unmasking rivals, and vanishing before they expose you in hidden movement game. And then Tug of War, which is a pretty cool lane battler where you're blindly bidding on recruits with unique class powers. I love blind bidding in games as well in that lane combat game. So you can get in on all of these for about $79 US, 76 US, which is a great deal. And all 3 of these do look pretty good quality there. And again, this is a publisher behind Earth, Draft and Write Records. So they do some pretty good games inside Up Games. Next up, Point Galaxy and Propolis. This is got about 4 weeks to go in this particular one, about 3 or 4 weeks. Actually, a little over 4 weeks to go. Well funded. This is from Flat Out Games. There's 2 different games. So Point Galaxy, if you know Point Salad and Point City, I didn't really like Point City. It wasn't great, but Point Salad is really, really good. Now, Point Galaxy seems to go back to that hit of Point Salad and bring it kind of obviously in this kind of a spacey theme with a little bit more, a little bit different takes on that drafting, but it looks really, really good. And Propolis is kind of a worker placement city kind of management, or I wouldn't say management, maybe more of a city kind of building game where you're using, where there's medieval bees in this kind of city. These look great. Absolutely like, so you can get Point Galaxy for 19, you can get Propolis for 19, or the 2 of them together for 35, which is a good deal. You're saving a few bucks there, but both of these games look pretty good. And to be honest, this company is really good at kind of bringing that, the lighter game. Flat Out Games really good at bringing the lighter game with some cool things to do, with an easy hook to playing, and just a lighter game with a lot of depth to it as well. Next up, Terminus Frontier, a cooperative tactical adventure board game. This has got about 2.5 weeks to go, and well funded for Forgeborn Games. You can get in this one for about $125, which is a big box. This, the best way I can describe it, I hate to just kind of throw this moniker on there because it probably may overdo it a little bit, but it's like Space Haven, almost like Gloomhaven in space, kind of, because it is more tactical, and kind of the way combat is doing is a little bit different, and the way you're using the cards is very, very cool in this game. I really like the way this one looks, and of course, all these type of games, these campaign or scenario type games are always up my alley, and as much as I absolutely love these type of games, so I really think this will be a pretty cool one to check out. And they've got some pretty good guest designers. Emil Larson, who did Rogue Angels, which is a really cool game. I don't think it's come out yet. It was funded, but I did play test a lot of the early ones in Rogue Angels. So Emil is a really good designer in this type of game too. So we're looking out for this one. Terminus Frontier looks kind of fun, again in that kind of campaign-y vein that I love. And finally, in Kickstarter, Northgard Uncharted Horizons. This is an expansion. Again, this is some long campaigns. This one has got about 5 weeks left to go. It is well funded. This is from Open Sesame Games. Now, Northgard is not a game that I've played before, but I've heard some good things about it. And this is just another expansion, adding a lot more to that particular game as well. You can get in this one for the expansion for about $52, and then they've got the Northgard Uncharted bundle with everything for about $168. So love to hear your thoughts on the base game, whether you liked it or not. This is kind of a 4X board game and it brings in new game modes in this expansion, including solo play, new clans, new creatures, and more into this game. And the last thing I got for you today is one that I teased a few months ago, probably about 6 months ago. This is Star Trek Ascendancy, The Final Frontier. This is on GameFound. Star Trek Ascendancy is kind of a 4X Star Trek game. I think when I did my top 5 Star Trek and Star Wars games, I think this was my number 1 Star Trek game. I absolutely love Ascendancy. They're bringing in the Gorn, the Tholians, and a Terran Empire. I can't say enough. This game is awesome, especially if you like kind of the think you're a strategy 4X types game, but it's a little bit different. Just kind of the way the story develops in these 4X type game, in this Ascendancy. You can get on this for $150, and it has a really cool that's got this big cool storage solution for everything, where it's it either has kind of the USS Enterprise on one side, kind of looking a box, or it looks like a board cube, really. But man, this game is so much fun, and as you're playing it, it really feels like you're almost playing a movie. Just kind of the way the cards and the scenario, not scenarios, they're almost like kind of quests and stuff, kind of the way the different things and the way the universe expands as you're playing and you're laying out the space lanes. It is so good. And it really feels like you're playing different episodes of Star Trek or movies of Star Trek, the way things kind of just come together. It's a lot of fun. And so check this one out if you haven't gotten it yet, or if you have the old ones, or you want to get in on this one, there's different kind of piecemeal way to get in on this one. So Star Trek Ascendancy, The Final Frontier, it's really good by Gale Force 9. I can't say how much can't say enough how much I like this one. So thanks for joining me today. If you think of any news you'd like me to feature, shoot me a message at GeekJockDan on Twitter. And also, follow me there on Twitter. I'll be at Adam, which is Agora for Tabletop Opinionated Minds. This is a tabletop reviewers retreat at the Gamers Ranch down in Missouri. I'll be up there in about a week and a half. So stay tuned to my Twitter and other socials for great content. I'll have a lot of pictures and videos and more. It's a really cool mini convention. I had been invited for the last few years. I just hadn't been able to get there. Where a lot of different content creators and reviewers and such, they get together. Work has always gotten away, but I'm really excited to finally get to go there. This is sponsored by Inside Up Games, Queen Games, and Eagle Griffin Games. A really cool place to see some new games, meet a ton of other great content creators, and play some games. So I'm really looking forward to being down there. So take a look on Twitter, and then once I get back, I'll cover it on the Geek All Stars, and on in the Discord, I'll probably mention about some games I played as well. Like I said, also check out my show, The Geek All-Stars, and check out MajorSpoilers.com for other content by Steven and the rest of the Major Spoilers crew. As always, I am Dan, the Board Game Man, and I'll see everyone in a couple weeks for another Munchkin Minute.
This podcast is copyright 2025 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.